Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. It's a brand new year, and a new year is always, started with New Year resolutions, and we do that to bring in changes in ourselves in order to become better, healthier, smarter, and happier. This new year has begun with a dramatic change for Indian cricket. Whether this will make the team better, we will have to wait and find out. But for now, I can tell you, Indian team will see a tectonic shift in 2025, and the first step in this transition of Indian cricket has begun. As the die-hard Indian cricket fans woke up in the early hours of the morning, waiting to see who walks out for the toss today, what had been reported became a reality. Jasprit Bumrah came out with the team sheet, and there was no Rohit Sharma to be seen. Rohit had decided to opt out of the Sydney Test. With a rut of low scores hampering Rohit and India after the Boxing Day Test, the captain said, "Okay, that's it. I'm going to sit out of this one." And he gave the reins to Jasprit Bumrah. Rohit has accumulated 31 runs in 3 tests after missing the first match in Perth owing to the birth of a second child. It seems like this is the last that we've seen of Rohit Sharma in red ball cricket for India. What does this mean for him? What does this mean for Indian cricket? We will ask all of those questions, and we will come to that in just a bit. But now, what happened in his absence on day one at the SCG? It was once again a repeat story of a poor first innings. Virat Kohli struggling outside off, Rishabh Pant throwing away his wicket, and top order batters struggling against the new ball. India won the toss, opted to bat first with the aim to win the match, square the series, retain the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but they ended up in deep trouble after a much familiar flop show with the bat. India were bundled out for 185, with Scott Boland and Mitchell Starc inflicting the maximum damage. In response, Australia ended the day at 9 for the loss of 1 wicket. Their opener, Usman Khawaja, he was dismissed on the last ball of the day. KL Rahul, though, was the first to depart on the last ball of the 5th over in the morning, clipping a half volley from Mitchell Starc to Sam Constas at square leg for just 11 runs. 10 deliveries and 6 runs later, Jaiswal fell after a 26-ball 10. Shubman Gill's poor judgment on the last delivery before lunch added to India's woes. Batting on 20 of 64 deliveries, Gill stepped out to Nathan Lyon on the last ball of the session, only to be caught at first slip. Kohli, he was fortunate to survive off the first ball that he faced. He could have been out for a golden duck. He edged to the second slip. Steve Smith had dived full length to his right to pluck the ball just off the grass, but technology came to Kohli's rescue as it appeared that the ball had just brushed the surface. He batted for another 68 deliveries with utter caution to score 17 runs, and then Scott Boland trapped him yet again in that off-stump channel where Kohli's all 7 dismissals have come so far in this series. Then came Rishabh Pant. He copped multiple blows to fight out a full session. He had to endure nasty blows on his biceps, and there was, one ball that hit the helmet, twice in the sensitive abdominal area. He showed restraint, though, for a while, but eventually India's top scorer departed for 40, trying to pull a short one from Boland to Pat Cummins at mid-on. With in-form Nitish Reddy falling for a first ball duck and Washington Sundar going for 17, India were staring at a below par total. A 17-ball 22 by Jasprit Bumrah, that took them to 185. Once again, leaving this Indian team wondering how it has all gone so wrong for them. Now, Jamie Alter, he's an author, he's a cricket analyst, a YouTuber, actor, joins us here on the show. And we'll have some very strong views because we've been discussing this for some time now as to what is the future from here for this Indian team. Will Virat Kohli follow next? Rohit Sharma, is this the last that we've seen of him? I believe selectors have already told him that they are going to look beyond him after the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and something that we had expected, Jamie. But despite the fact that we knew this was going to happen, it does it makes you wonder what's going to happen to Indian cricket from here on, because this year is going to be a huge transition that we'll see in Indian cricket.
Yes, absolutely. It has been a transition for a few years now. I mean, you look at the kind of comments that many fans of this Indian team are making on social media and on various YouTube channels, and they're actually missing Rahane and Pujara. And the last time we ever discussed at length Rahane and Pujara, it was talk about transition, and the transition still seems to be going on. It's like a never-ending churning process here. Look, I mean, Virat Kohli can say what he wants to say, and Rohit Sharma can say what they want to say. The point is that both of them are. Rohit Sharma, in fact, I believe, has played his last Test match, and Virat Kohli is not too far because when you're of that stature, when you've accumulated a lot of runs, and when you've been the two most the most significant batsman of this modern era, and then the runs dry up, especially in the case of Rohit Sharma. It's been very drastic. 3.5 months ago, he was not looking like a walking wicket, but now he is that. And whether he was pushed aside or whether he took the call on his own, I think that's now irrelevant. The fact is that India have turned a corner. They've decided, at least right now, Rohit Sharma does not fit into our best 11. In fact, the BCCI team sheet shared this morning to journalists via WhatsApp didn't even have him in the top 15. So clearly they moved on beyond him. He had probably had an option to leave the tour like Ashwin did. He chose to hang around, being a team man. But I have no doubt that he's played his last Test match. And looking at Virat Kohli's struggles, Meha, once again, 22 times now in the last 23 times, sorry, in the last about three odd years, he's
Yeah.
failed to curb his aggression outside off stump. So signs are pretty bleak for Virat Kohli as well. And now being the first test of a new year, fans of Indian cricket will hope that Jasprit Bumrah can once again lift this team because, frankly, who else is lifting this Indian team in Australia? And then, as we discussed in a previous show, there's a 7 month gap until India resume playing Test cricket. So that churning, that transition will probably continue even into that five Test series 7 months from now. But hopefully, the changes made, if at all, will be positive ones, keeping in mind the future, because you have 2 years to every WTC cycle starting now.
That's right. Okay, now let's also listen into what Rishabh Pant had to say. He came for the post-match press conference, what he had to say about Rohit sitting out of the Sydney Test. And there are others now who are weighing in, who are talking about what this means for Indian cricket. Listen in.
I think definitely it was an emotional decision because he's been captain for a long time. We see him as a leader of the team, but I think there's some decision which you are not involved with, and it's a very management call. So I was not part of that conversation, so can't explain anything other than that.
बड़ी अजीब बात है कि आज भारतीय कप्तान रोहित शर्मा को टीम से बाहर बिठा दिया गया है. It's bizarre, it's strange, simply because of the fact that this has happened for the first time in Indian cricket history कि कोई कप्तान बाहर बैठा है. या तो कप्तान बनाइए नहीं, लेकिन अगर बनाया और एक महान खिलाड़ी को जिसने बहुत सेवा की है भारतीय क्रिकेट की, फिर उसका फॉर्म गलत है या नहीं है ये मैटर नहीं करता है. कप्तान को ये ऑप्शन नहीं है कि वो टीम के हित के लिए ऑप्ट आउट कर ले. इट सेंड्स द रॉन्ग सिग्नल्स. अ कैप्टन नेवर डीलिंक्स फ्रॉम हिज शिप इवन इफ इट इज अ सिंकिंग शिप. और ये बहुत सम्मान वाला इज्जतदार आदमी है. भाई, it's a wrong decision.
Jamie, there is merit in this, and why I'm saying this is that in the middle of a series or right towards the end of the series, let's say, your captain decides to sit out. Obviously, it does send a wrong message to the team. I'm sure there are little groups we've been talking and we've been hearing about friction within the dressing room. We're talking about different camps, rift within the dressing room. Suddenly, the captain who you've been walking up to and, telling all your problems to, he decides to sit out of a game. I don't know how much of this is going to impact the morale of the team.
I don't know. I think it's a good thing that finally either Rohit woke up one fine day and realized that he's a liability to this team, and there's no other way to address it. He is a liability to this team right now. We were seeing that clip from former India opener Navjot Singh Sidhu. He makes some valid points in the sense that ideally a captain should not leave the ship, and it's never happened. But unfortunately, this is the highest profile Test series of the year when it comes to international cricket, and India are still struggling. I mean, hang on by a thread to try and make that all-important WTC final. And you've got a man whose abysmal batting form has clearly affected his thinking. He's been very, very flat as a captain, and he's overseen what six losses in a row, and that's unheard of in this modern era for a team that has been number one for so many years. So it's an unfortunate, very, I'd say, abnormal situation
Yeah.
when an Indian captain has had to either been stand down. We still don't know. We've heard three, four different versions. I would like to believe it's a mixture of everything. His Rohit's realization that I'm a liability to this team. The coach realizing, I mean, yes, he's weighed this team down, but would you want at the start of a new year to be weighed down one more time by the biggest dead weight or anchor in that room? No. So I see a lot of merit in this decision. I don't know who took the call. Let's not get into that. But Rohit Sharma not playing
Okay.
this Sydney Test match, I think it's very, very good for the team. Yes, it's not made a difference to the team total.
Which is what
Once
I was
again,
going to ask you. I mean, they're still out for 185.
is that entirely Rohit Sharma's fault? No. I mean, he was there when they were bowled out for 150 on the first day of this series. He was not even in Australia. He came back. He oversaw a 2.5 day defeat at the Adelaide Oval, in which he didn't do anything. Rain saved India from certain defeat in Brisbane. Rohit Sharma's contribution in the Melbourne loss was next to nothing. So I mean, you can argue that he wasn't doing anything as well. And you saw only less than 3 overs before stump, but you saw a different kind of aggression from the Indian team. Yes, 19-year-old Sam Constas had a big role to play in that, but the way that 10 players ran towards Bumrah, you didn't see that when Bumrah was doing fantastic things under Rohit's captaincy. So maybe, again, a long way to go in this test match, but
Yes.
maybe just having a captain like Bumrah, who, let's face it, led very, very well in Perth, gets this team into a different mood on the pitch.
Okay, now in the post-match press conference, Rishabh Pant also spoke about his own batting, how he's batted with restraint on this opening day of the fifth test because of the character of the SCG pitch. Remember, Pant has been copping severe criticism from all corners for his callous approach to batting during the Melbourne test. Listen into what he had to say.
Definitely, it's painful, but sometimes you have to do the hard work for the team, and that's okay. Not thinking about where I got hit, but just playing the ball to best of my abilities. That's the only thing I can do, and that's what I did. This is the first time I've gotten hit so much, but in cricket you can't plan anything. So everything happened for the first time for sure at some point of time in your career, but that was me today. So not thinking about that too much. I think in this inning I was not in a frame of mind where I wanted to take charge of the game because the wicket was doing too much and the kind of situation we were in. And while playing inside, I felt like I could play a little bit of defensive cricket. Yes, there is a time to attack, but when you have to feel that from inside, I can't just premeditate that I'm going to play this way. Whatever the game asked me to do on that given day, that's what I try to do, and that was the mindset. I think it should be remaining the same, hopefully, for us. But I feel it was a little tough pitch. The ball was doing off the wicket quite a bit, especially after the end of second session, I would say. But, as a cricketer, you just have to adjust to whatever kind of condition you get and just try to make most out of it. I wouldn't say it's a par score, but I think anything over 220 to 250 would be a par score. But still a very competitive score because the way ball is moving now, I think there's a lot of help for the bowler and hopefully we can capitalize on that.
Okay, so still a very competitive score, which is in a way good news for Indian fans. But what does Australia think of this? Debutant Australian all-rounder Bo Webster, he accepts that facing Jasprit Bumrah will be a tough task for the Australian team on the Sydney pitch. He said getting India out for less than 200 on a seamer-friendly track was a commendable effort. Listen in.
It was a great day. It was a really proud day this morning to have my family down here in Sydney and to get the cap from Junior with some really nice words was a really proud moment for me and my family. And it was seaming around a bit there throughout the whole day. And I do like a bit of seam movement in the wicket, and it did feel like I was, close a lot of the times there to both those left-handers in Pant and Jadeja. So, I was sort of trying to wrestle Paddy to keep the ball in my hand as much as I could there. I felt like I was in a good rhythm, and the ball's moving around like that. It can be, it's sort of, you got two options. I think you either try and leave as many balls as you can and try and get the bowlers to come fuller, or you try and hit them off their length and get a few slips into the outfield. So they obviously, decided to try and knuckle down and take the shine off the ball and get us to bowl, more and more overs. And they did it quite well. I think 180 on that wicket was, they could have very easily got 250 with another partnership and would have held them in good stead. I suppose tomorrow's morning session and tomorrow we'll really see how the wicket plays and when both teams are batted on it. But yeah, if I had a guess, it's going to seam around most of the game.
Okay, now, Jamie, we've already spoken about Rohit Sharma, and now reports also suggesting that the selectors have spoken to Rohit Sharma, that they're looking beyond him after the Border Gavaskar Trophy. So the writing is pretty clear there. But what about Virat Kohli? Yet again, that off-stump failure, it almost has become predictable now. It's almost really now not a matter of if, it's when it's going to happen as he gets out to bat. And it's really disappointing also to see him, such a great batter, not being able to deal with this weakness which has haunted him for so many years.
Yeah, it's been over 3 years and counting now that he's just not been able to curb that aggression. I'm not suggesting for a second, Maya, that he's not worked hard, but clearly whatever effort Virat Kohli has put in across the 3 years is insufficient, because it's not just the cover drive. I mean, if you were to sit down and take out a day and just look at every single dismissal, and I believe the count is now 23 times outside the off stump to fast bowlers. It's the whole gamut. It's a forward press, it's a back foot press, it's a lunge, it's a waft, it's a drive, it's a push. Any kind of shot you want to use to describe whatever Virat Kohli's done for the better part of 3.5 years, and the result is caught keeper, caught first slip, second slip, third slip, or the gully. It's bizarre how a batsman who to my mind was on track for minimum 12,000 runs, if not 14, 15,000 runs in the test format, as recent as 5 years ago, has had this dramatic downfall where he's just not able to get past the urge to go hard at the ball. And today's dismissal, like you mentioned earlier in this bulletin, was the 7th time. He's batted 8 times, an unbeaten 100, but all 7 dismissals have come to some variety of a shot outside off stump, short of a length full, back of a length 3/4, whatever Australia's pacers, and I think every pacer has gotten his wicket in this series, wherever they've landed the ball in that corridor between the 4th stump and the 8th stump, unfortunately Virat Kohli is just gone for it. So also, like we were discussing Rohit Sharma, questions will have to be asked, because there's a 7-month gap from the time this Sydney Test match ends until the next time that India play Test cricket, and you only have one-day cricket, white ball cricket in the IPL. Is the IPL the recipe to Virat Kohli to get back in even half the form he used to be in for a grueling 5-test series in England? If you're asking me, the answer is no. So he could be playing his last Test match as well, Maya, and that'll be a sad end to a very good career.
Absolutely. Now, we'll continue to talk about this, but this is what happened, which was a controversial decision, and I want to get your reaction to this. When India was 17 for 2 after Jaiswal's dismissal, Kohli edged the first ball he faced from Scott Boland to Steve Smith in the second slip. Smith scooped the ball just off the grass, and it was a very close call to judge with the naked eye. The field umpires, they went to the television umpire for clarification, and technology came to Kohli's rescue. But, of course, the two teams have different views on this third umpire's decision, and it was very close to a naked eye. I was watching it, and we were watching it, Jamie, in the morning, and I thought it was out, and you said it was not out. What's the final verdict?
Look, on first view and second view and probably even third view, it looked out. But then the more you look at the different angles, you start to ask yourself in the mind, could we have gotten a few more angles? It's controversial. Steve Smith will of course claim he took it. No Indian player that I know of has come out and said anything on the record. But like Mr. Sunil Gavaskar mentioned this morning, the Indians do not go and complain about conditions. They have enough to worry about with their own batting, bowling, and fielding, and captaincy and leaks and all that stuff. But yes, it's very, very controversial. I just go back to that WTC final of last year between these two teams at the Oval, the Cameron Green catch at gully of Shubman Gill, I believe it was. That was a bit more controversial. And when I think after that, the whole backlash that the host broadcasters got and the ICC got and the technology providers got, you sort of wonder if this happens again to a high-profile Indian player. Maybe it might not be given. So from watching it in the morning to now, I think the right decision was indeed taken.
And quickly, if you could just tell us in 30 seconds, what are you expecting from Jasprit Bumrah tomorrow in the Indian bowling attack? Because it really has been the bowlers' show for Team India. And tomorrow, again, a very important day for Jasprit Bumrah on that wicket.
Yes, just like Rishabh Pant said, this is going to be a tough wicket. I believe Jasprit Bumrah will get at least 3 wickets in the first session, and that par score that that Rishabh Pant spoke about, you need to get Australia before the 225 mark. Otherwise, you're going to fall too far behind. But as dismal as the batting has been, Bumrah has been sensational. I believe 32 wickets and counting. If one guy is going to do it, on many will say, Meha, the toughest track we've seen so far, it'll be Bumrah. So I think Bumrah is going to have a field day tomorrow.
All right, Jamie Alter, always fun to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Okay, time for us to wrap this up. But the Sydney Test is a special event as it marks Jane McGrath Day. This was started in 2009, since the time Glenn McGrath's wife, Jane McGrath, she passed away. Australian players wear pink caps on the third day of the match. The venue will be covered with a sea of pink. They try to raise millions of dollars for cancer support and awareness in Australia. And take a look at those visuals. On day one today, the McGrath Foundation supporters created a brilliant atmosphere outside the stadium. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.